Hello and welcome back. Thank you again for tuning in. This week, our guest, Victoria Salmman, has been a solicitor for over 10 years, but she is passionate about female rights, equality, and everything to do with the gender issue. So 18 months ago, she set up, alongside two other friends, a female empowerment platform called The Cerve. I am thrilled she's here to join us today. Victoria, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for being a guest on the show. So, myself included, a passionate feminist, and on the subject of women's rights and equality, tell me, how did you turn this passion into your purpose?
I've always had this strong sense of fairness and a wanting for things to be fair. I think I was probably one of those whinging children who points out when things aren't fair. And even from a young age, I wanted to be treated like an equal. I think it was that sense of striving for fairness that attracted me to the legal profession, the opportunity to help others seek redress. And in terms of gender equality, there were instances in my own life that made me see that it really isn't an equal playing field. And I started reading more about it. So books like Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg and Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. And I was just so incensed and outraged at that. And I really wanted to contribute to the feminist movement in some way and to create a space where women are able to stay informed and inspired in relation to modern feminism by discovering what to read, watch, and listen to. So we showcase modern feminist literature, films, box sets, podcasts, TED Talks, to share the stories and the successes of women, as well as the hardships and the discrimination that our gender still faces. And historically, feminism has achieved great things, but the job isn't done yet. There is still so far to go in medicine, in business, in leadership, in pay, in safety, in our home lives. And I really wanted to provide a call to action to continue our education about these issues and striving to close that gender gap.
Good for you. I mean, you're a woman after my own heart, raising a 3-year-old in a world which I hope that gap is closed by the time she's sitting in our seats. And I passionately believe that we are making the headway, but it takes a great movement to keep it going and keep having those conversations until they're all brought to light and all brought down in some way. Tell me, I've been on the platform. I absolutely love it. I'd been a big fan of Goop for years, and then I found the Cerve and I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. It's this smorgasbord of culture, feminist culture. What have you listened to or read or watched or seen of late that you're raving about?
In terms of reading, I've mentioned the book by Caroline Criado Perez, Invisible Women, and I would highly recommend that book. I think that before I'd done much reading around feminism, and when I was younger, I thought that the job was done by the suffragettes, and it just really opened my eyes to the inequalities that exist across society. So things like, for example, that many medications are still tested only on men, the fact that crash test dummies quite often are built to the specification of men, and even trivial things like the iPhone was designed around the average size of a male hand. So it's fascinating that these things still exist. In terms of film, I've recently watched the film called Promising Young Woman, which is incredible. I really, really enjoyed that. I was glued to it, and I think it has a very shocking ending as well. But there's also this just sense of male entitlement and trying to readdress that balance that I found gripping when I watched that.
And anyone podcasts or listening wise that you are raving about online?
I'm a big fan of Clementine Ford as well. She is doing amazing things. She does a podcast called Big Sister Hotline, where people can call and speak to her about an issue, and she will give her feminist take on it. And she's got a very a very effective following on social media as well in relation to feminist issues, and you can send your questions and she will deal with them in something called Friday Night Bites, which it's very entertaining. She's humorous, but she's very direct, very to the point, and quite a lot of the time something will happen in my life and she's almost a reference point for me, where I think, what would Clementine do in this situation? What would she say? How would she articulate this?
Amazing. I'll listen out for her. Clementine Hood, did you say?
Clementine Ford.
Okay. So one of the questions that I find is really important to have at this time is how do we include, educate, invite in the male following, and that equality, to have this conversation between the sexes. Do you have a male following at the Curve?
We do. It's growing. I think at the moment it's probably a lot of the male friends that I have, or the people that I know, and it is growing. I think there are things that we can do. Just going back to the point about including men in this conversation, I think for me, feminism starts at home. It's not necessarily about becoming a leader of the country or the CEO of a business. It's about equality at home, and that's the place where we can really infiltrate the patriarchy, and it's where we raise children, so the example that they see set. And I think if we establish equality at home in relation to running a household, managing the emotional labour, raising children, and really setting that example of equality, and having respect and value attached to all of those things that women do gratuitously a lot of the time, then that is the foundation for equality moving forwards.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, if you get it right, first of all with yourself, and then with the children or the company that you keep, and you keep it well under one roof, where that respect and the education and just the conversation around just being educated in this. It's not about right and wrong or winners and losers. It's just about reframing and resetting the narrative and the culture so that whatever is coming after us, it's fair. Like you started this conversation, it's fair. Why wouldn't we have that, you know? And putting also forgiveness around what's been before, because I think what happens is that the seed of hatred or anger really riles deep, and it filters down, and actually it's of no use now. So we need to really have that element of forgiveness too, and just come back to a clean slate and see what comes out, but not shy away from the conversations, and not feel like they need to be swept under the carpet for a rainy day, or it's just the way it is. It's not just the way it is. So yes, as you could tell, I'm a passionate sort of believer in what you've been speaking about. My last question to you then, Victoria, would be, if we had a listener out there, and I'm really thinking right now, a young woman, if they're listening to, what could you say to them if they are delaying finding their passion or living their passion and putting that into action and making it their dream, making it their life's work? What could you say to them?
I think we've all been through such a difficult period recently with so much change that it's almost a bit of a paradox, because on the one hand, it's understandable that we might be craving the familiar, but it's also giving us such a unique opportunity to reevaluate, whether that's personally or professionally. And I think my advice would be to surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you. And if you haven't got access to those people in real life, then create that in a virtual environment. So on my commute to work pre-pandemic, I was always listening to podcasts such as She Can, She Did with Fiona Grayson, or How I Built This with Guy Raz. And hearing those stories of grit and hard work really motivated me and made me want to up my game. And I think it's also very important to make sure that what you're passionate about is kept clear and is kept central, because it's very easy to become distracted or overwhelmed. And whenever that happens to me, I immerse myself back into stories of gender inequality, which isn't difficult at the moment. There are lots of stories and they are very public. And what that does is just really ignite this fire and this fury inside of me, which is a huge driving force for the Curve.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute privilege and inspiration to hear you and to follow your work avidly. And thank you for the service that you're bringing. I hope to see you soon when it's all over, this lockdown of ours.
I've really enjoyed chatting to you. Thank you, Debs.
See you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.